Well, hey, everybody. I am Lisa Stone, creator of Parenting Aces, and I am joined by Brian Park, creator of Apeak. And Brian, I would love for you to give our viewers a little bit of your background and what Apeak is all about, just kind of the elevator pitch. And then we're going to jump right into a really helpful, I hope, conversation for tennis families.
Yes, Lisa, thanks for having me. Super excited to be here. A little bit about myself. I played tennis junior circuit and played college tennis. Got my master's in sports psych and uh, did a lot of consulting. Still works with the professional players to junior college players. And we started Apeak, and we have over 30 college teams utilizing our app, and we have a lot of the academies using our app. And Apeak is really everything you need, everything the players need to become mentally tough. And then we have just launched a new product called AP Coach. It's a product that connects the players and the app, so that coaches can monitor their progress, provide feedback, and more.
Awesome. Awesome. So we have somebody just joined in the conversation. So we have offered this conversation to the Parenting Aces premium members. So that would be our annual and monthly members. And we're just really excited to have you on to chat a little bit about the importance of effective goal setting and how parents can use effective goal setting to better communicate with their kids, because communication is at the root of everything we do in life and being successful in the things that we do. And I talk a lot about communication on Parenting Aces. So I'm excited to kind of get your take, Brian, from the psychology standpoint of what is effective goal setting and how can parents better utilize it with their junior tennis players.
Yes. If you don't mind, can I share my screen?
Please.
Yes. All right. Obviously, that's our mission. Our mission is to empower minds and strengthen character for life using our APIC tennis and the coach.
Mhm.
Today's topic is about utilizing the goal setting guidance to improve communication. And the communication, not just communication with your child, but also communication, helping them to improve their internal communication within themselves. If the players really understand how to set goals and understand what is the right goals and what is not, then they have a much better chance of teaching them and communicating within themselves and giving them the right direction. Because when you think about tennis, you're out there always teaching yourself how to compete, how to perform, what kind of strategy to implement, what type of things you're going to focus on to implement those strategies. So you're always teaching yourself and helping them to understand how to set goals in a right way, an effective way, will help them to be a better teacher for themselves while they're competing.
I love
Um,
that. I love that. And it's, it's all about understanding what effective goals are. And, again, at Parenting Aces, we talk a lot about focusing on the process, not the results. And so setting goals using this STAAMP approach, which I'm going to let you explain, really keeps the focus moving in the right direction, I believe.
yes, absolutely. So I made this the presentation really brief and right to the point. So we're only going to really stay focused on this goal setting guidance. And first, let me explain the stamp means. We have double A's here, not just a regular stamp. So specific, obviously, when players are setting goals, has to be specific, not like I want to work on my forehand. What specific part of your forehand are you going to work on? I want to work on my serve. What specific part of that serve are you going to work on? Time bound.
For example, like regarding the serve, it would be, making my toss more consistent, maybe.
Yes, or keeping their chin up throughout their swing,
Okay.
using their legs. Yeah, the
Okay.
specific goals. Yes. Timely bound. This has to be timely manner. You cannot have a goal that takes so long to achieve it when you only have a short period of time. So depends on the time that you have. The goal has to match that. Attainable. Again, that goes back to kind of a timely manner and also the realistic. Is it the goal that you're setting? Is it attainable within the time that you have?
For
Approach.
example, again, sorry to keep interrupting you,
Yes.
but if you are playing level 7 tournaments because that's the level that's appropriate for where you are in your development, to have a goal of playing level 1 tournaments within 3 months is probably not an attainable goal.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. So when it comes to the goal setting, there are long-term goals, mid-term goals, and short-term goals. Um, Now, mid-term, long-term goals and even the short-term goals really needs to be discussed with the coaches and parents, and depending on their tournament schedule and their training schedule to really figure out what is the outcome goals they can achieve, and given how much they're playing and how many tournaments they're playing.
Mm-hmm.
So those things really needs to be considered in a collaborative teamwork. So it's not just the one person deciding. But in terms of the purpose of this goal setting is more, think of it like a daily goals. You're setting a daily goal to really focus on something on the given day. In a very short-term oriented goals that you're setting. So these guidelines applies to long-term, mid-term goals. But let's really stay focused on maybe perhaps like a daily goals that the players are going to set, rather than long-term goals, because long-term goals just consider so many different factors.
Absolutely. I'm sorry. Somebody just emailed me trying to get into the meeting, so I'm trying to send them back the link to get in. You keep talking, and I'm going to take
Okay,
care of this.
sounds great. Yeah, approach oriented. So super critical. It has to be approach oriented, meaning that I want to do something versus avoiding something. This is very dangerous when the players are setting goals that has negative words. Don't make too many mistakes. Don't double fault. Don't hit it into the net, or don't hit it out. Whatever that might be, that has an avoidance word, avoidance phrase in it, are not only bad, but it's detrimental for your performance. So you want to make sure that you're setting approach-oriented goals, that you're committing to yourself that you're going to do something rather than avoiding something. And then measurable goals. It has to be measured. If it's a long-term goals, it has to be measurable. Did your rankings improve? Measurable in terms of, let's say, that you're just measuring the scale of 1 to 10. So you decided that you're going to keep your head still during the practice. Every single forehand you hit, you decided that you're going to do your best to keep your head still. Scale 1 to 10, how well did you do? So you can measure it in that qualitative measure instead of a quantitative measure, because in order for you to quantify that, that would be very, very difficult process to figure out how many forehands you hit and how many actually you kept your head still. So you can do it more of a qualitative measure in that manner. Obviously, process driven. So nothing about the outcome, everything about the process. Now,
So again, not setting, I want to reach this ranking or this UTR rating by a certain date, but rather I want to keep improving.
yes, of course. Yeah, staying focused on what you can control, and the outcome and the rankings are some of the present moments. right? So if you take care of the task that you have, and each and every day, each and every moment, then you're gonna have the best chance to have a positive outcome.
Right.
But focusing on the future outcome, what the future outcome might be, or what you might want it to be, that's something that we have no control over. So we really have to stay focused on the things within our control, and those are process. So let's talk a little bit about some of the examples, and how we can make them a better goal. Let's say, don't make too many mistakes. I hope that some of the parents are not saying those type of things, because it's negative, because you're avoiding them, telling them to avoid something. This is very common when people are trying not to think of something. You think more of it when you're trying not to think of it, right?
For sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. Don't
So
double fault. Don't double fault. Don't double fault. Then what happens? You double fault. Yeah.
exactly, yeah. So you want to change that to perhaps something like play with more spin or with more margin. That would be more of a positive. So now you're trying to get them to do something rather than avoiding something.
See, this is
Don't.
so helpful for me too, Brian, because I play on two doubles leagues right now on two different teams. And these are even things like that I feel like I can do better as a doubles partner with my partner, right?
Yes.
You know, saying things like play with more spin. That's so much more helpful than,
Yes.
or,
Then
how about
saying don't go for too much.
exactly, exactly. Or, how about we, play more high percentage shots for the next game and see how that goes. Something
Yes.
like that, right? Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. So another example would be, don't go for too much, which you just talked about. How can we make that better? Play with the patience and stay disciplined with your shot selections. Play with the margin. So those are the words that you want to use. And then how about, you have to make first serves. Well, now you're putting pressure, because now you're talking about the outcome. Like making first serve is outcome driven statement. So how about you change that to serve smart by taking some pace off and going for better placement. Maybe that's not the goal. Maybe the child and the parents don't want to take the pace off and just want to be able to make more first serve. So instead of saying making more first serves, perhaps the right goal would be to do a great job on their cues, on their serve, that's going to allow them to make more first serve. Like, for example, making sure their toss is right, making sure they're staying relaxed throughout their swing, making sure they're keeping their chin up throughout their swing. So,
And this even goes into, because I've watched so many matches where you hear the player saying, you got to make first serves. What's going on with your first serve? So it even goes into self-talk for the player. And, if the parent is using this type of positive language with their child, hopefully the child's going to internalize that. And then their self-talk on court is going to become more positive and more useful.
exactly, absolutely. Yeah, eventually, if the parents communicates better, and the child does really understand these guidance on the goal setting, and they apply themselves, and through better communication, and that only gets reinforced, then like you said, over time, when they're teaching themselves while they're playing, because when you're competing with the rules that we have, no coaching, they're constantly teaching themselves on how to play. When they're
Right.
making mistakes, they're telling themselves, don't miss, or don't go for too much.
Yeah.
And when they're saying these things that are not really positive for their performance, then it really hurts them. But if they can learn to utilize this goal setting guidance to improve their internal communication, because this communication is being reinforced the day-to-day life with their parents,
Yep.
then that could have a tremendously positive impact on their performance. So obviously, work on your forehand. It has to be more specific about that forehand. And then I have one more slide. So asking, leading them to the right answer with the right questions is the key. When you're talking with a child, I've learned this mistake through coaching. When I was coaching, I used to tell them what to do, and it's not as effective when they don't understand why is it that they're doing something, and they don't understand the reason behind on whatever the action they're trying to do, because they are being told what to do, versus they're coming up with the reasons to do it. Then it's completely different. So this goes beyond just the goal setting, right? So for example, you could ask questions like, what are you going to work on today? The kid might say, oh, I'm going to work on my forehand, Then, okay, what part of your forehand are you going to work on? And the kid might say, okay, I'm going to keep my head still, and I'm going to follow through right, and I'm going to use my legs. Then you might say, don't you think that's a little too many goals? Can you really focus on that many goals at the same time? So you ask questions like that to get them to buy into that idea and help them to come up with the right answer. And that has to continue every day. And I find that when I was coaching, it was much, much more powerful when the question was asked. And with the multiple questions, and when I was there, even though I knew the answer, I just didn't want to say it.
Right.
Because I wanted to lead them to the right question. And that becomes extremely powerful, because it's their goal now. It's their idea. And they have found the reasons why they want to do it that way versus just do this,
And so what's so cool about this, and as I'm listening to you say all these things, I'm thinking back on my son's, countless drills and lessons that he went through, is then every time they step foot on the court, there's a purpose to being there. If they've set the goal for the day, or even they have, let's say they have a 2-hour practice. Maybe, the first half hour is devoted to one goal. The second half hour is devoted to another goal, et cetera, et cetera. But if they've thought about this beforehand, because either they've had the conversation with the parents, or maybe they've had the conversation with the coach when they arrive at the court, to say, these are the things that I want to work on. I want to devote this amount of time to this amount of time to this other thing. Then every time they're on court, they're working towards something very specific, again, very measurable, and there's accountability for that.
Yeah, absolutely. And then oftentimes the players could play worse by focusing on the right goals. For example, let's say that you're working on your transition game. Your volley is not very good. Your approach shot needs to work on, but you can sit back on the baseline and rally all day, and you're consistent and you're good. So your goal is to get into the net as much as you can and really give yourself opportunity to work on your approach, getting into the net as quick as possible, covering the line, court positioning, making sure that you are doing a great job with your footwork and everything. And you have the goals to really work on those. And you have a very specific goals within that that you want to focus on. So you may go out and lose ton because you're getting into the net that you're not comfortable with and you're not very good at it. Then even though you might be losing a lot as a result of it, you're actually getting better.
Right.
Yeah. And that goes in many different ways, whether it's your second serve, that you want to go for more in your second serve, be able to mix it up your placement. As a result of it, you may make more double fault. But that's out of the question, because you're not really focused on making more serve, but you're more working on mixing up and being more aggressive with your second serve. So
which leads to more justification for more practice sets and more practice matches for these kids, right? because if they do have these types of goals, they need to be put in competitive situations that aren't necessarily tournaments where they've got that additional pressure of, we've paid to be here, I've got to win, I've got ranking points on the line, I've got rating on the line. But if they can get more practice matches in, it gives them opportunities to really hone in on these specific goals that we're talking about, really practice those in a competitive setting that isn't so pressure filled, but at least has a semblance of the pressure of tournament play.
Yes, yes. Well, yeah, I mean, as we talked about, just really sticking with this, the guidance of goal setting, trying, I believe that a lot of the parents are staying with this goal setting guidance, perhaps maybe paying more attention to changing the phrases that is more approachable versus avoidance, because that's something that we all tend to use a lot, even the players themselves when they're playing, telling them themselves like, don't miss or don't hit it out, don't double forward, make first serve, and also another one is outcome-driven statements, and changing those outcome-driven statements to more of a process-driven statements. Those alone could go really long way and really help them to set the right goals. And if that is practiced regularly, then their ability to set goals within themselves and teach themselves while they're competing will significantly improve.
Right. I love that. I love using goal setting as a way to improve communication, not just between the parent and the child, but also between the child and their coach, and that inner voice that the child is developing for him or herself too. You know, learning the things that will help you do better when you're in the pressure situation. And, I think this is such a great tool. I don't know if we have questions from those who are tuned into this. If you have a question, you feel free to unmute and ask it, or you can type it in the chat if that makes you more comfortable. But I just want to make sure that we're addressing the needs of the parents that are tuning into this. So we did record this session, and I will be sending it out via email to our premium members, and so they can get the first look at it, but eventually it will go up on parentingaces.com as well. Brian,
Yes.
are there any more tips that you want to share on utilizing the STAAMP approach and making sure that that we're staying process driven and not outcome driven?
Yeah, setting goals and then visualizing will be extremely powerful exercise. Now, there is a study done at Cleveland Clinics, and they've done a study where everybody received same training. They divided into two groups. One, only received, which is control group, only received physical training. The other group received the same physical training but did visualization on the skills that they're working on. What they found was the group used the visualization, they improved significantly faster than the group who only did physical training. So by writing the right goals, understanding these guidelines, then vividly visualizing before you step on the court and practice will give them a much better chance of staying on track on what they want to focus on, because by visualizing it'll be a great reminder. And also you have created those images you already played in your head before you step on the court, so that will only help them to perform better. So that would be one. In fact, in Apeak in our app, we just introduced a new goal setting features that where players can write it and then visualize and then step on the court and play. So to facilitate their motor learning, so we have that feature as well. But the players can do it by themselves,
Sure.
So, yeah.
And I mean, different ways to do this would be, once they've set their goals, to write them on Post-it notes and stick them up on the bathroom mirror, or, different spots around. Make sure they have them written down and they keep it in their bag. And so when they're, playing a practice match during the side change, they can pull those goals out and look at them and remind themselves what they're supposed to be focused on for that particular match, or that particular lesson, or that particular day's drills.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah.
Go ahead,
Yeah, I was
Brian.
gonna say that's great. I mean, it's again, it's always good to be here and good to see you. And hopefully, the parents can utilize this guidance to improve their communication. I'm sure that all the parents are communicating well with their child, but it would be, it would be extra helpful if they can really follow this guidance and better communicate.
We are going to be doing more of these webinars, and if there are topics that are of interest to the parents, please shoot me an email or DM me and let me know. But Brian and I have a schedule of upcoming webinars that we're going to be sharing with all of you. And this is for you guys. So we want to provide information that you deem helpful. So if you have ideas for future topics, please send them my way. And meanwhile, Brian, great to see you. Keep up the great work. For people that are interested in getting information on Apeak, they can go to apeak.com, apeak.com, and get more information on how to get the app. It is a free download, but there are fees involved with
Yeah.
with the premium version. So again, apologies for Sully barking in the background. He's very distracted at the moment. But anyway, it's been great chatting with you, and I look forward to our next one.
Okay, sounds great. Thanks, Lisa. Thanks for having me.
Thank you. Take
Okay,
care. All right.
bye-bye.
Bye.